Hello, welcome to Gord's Poetry Show number 8. And if you can hear that harp, it's the reconstruction from wall hangings, pictures of some kind, etching of a Kugo harp. First built, we think, around 2000 BC. That's an awful lot older than you and me. Particularly me, as I'm only, well, never mind. I'm getting along, but not that far. Poetry show number 8 on this hot August weekend. The latest book from famed Canadian poet, celebrated Canadian poet Don Coles, his collection Where We Might Have Been, and the poem The Young Women. The young women that keep on coming year after year, and although he signed off long ago on the lovely clamour, there are occasions still when he falters. For instance, when one of them brings him a second cup, although he hasn't asked. Or when another one sitting opposite him in the subway seems sad in some way. How derisory! Only he could fix it. It can also happen that a librarian lets him glimpse a book she's paused to browse in while shelving it, and it's one he has always loved. Tender is the Night, or Anna Karenina, and the scenes she may be finding, so sweetly deep in his mind, can bring her close. Rosemary, enchanted beyond rescue, watching the diver's table rise, or Levin's walk on the crackle of the frozen early morning fields. He once dreamt he was Levin, same age, same uncertainties, same swarm of serfs, and, in looks, both ordinary, all as it ought to be, walked on the dawn fields. And from the same collection, A Walk in the Woods. Suddenly frightened because, having walked ahead of me around a bend in the path, she found the sumac all at once nodding its garish head too close to her. She called out, "Daddy, Daddy," and with no warning or permission, the call covenanted itself with all the pending years of my life. What a long time it's been to be the only one who heard it, who will ever hear it. Even she wasn't listening. Well, childhood and remembrances thereof. Another one from Kateri Lanthier's Reporting from Night, which we glanced at before. This one's called Milktooth and is prefaced by, "How do the new days and days become the old times?" That's Joe. Your head rolls against me on the pillow, a breathing peach, stone balloon warmed by breath, peony face on a short, weak stalk. I contort myself so as not to twist. I look down as you fuse to my now vast breast. You seem distant, a miniature. Now 3, you say, I'm going into the forest. Then saunter in sock feet down the telescoping hall, first handing me binoculars the wrong way round, so that you'll see them far away. I close one eye, then another. In the binocular vision of memory, you, always small and tall at once, here and there. In the wide awake night, let's visit each floor, the mad paths we tread. You a bundle, me stooped, old woman carrying a fire log. At 2, gesturing up the stairs, you say, let's go up in the tree. My sob when you laugh for the first time. Both our faces masks, surprised to extremes. A tooth, beyond time to be weaned. Now, at 5, that fairy takes it back, leaves a cold coin to bite. I had a need to carry, for company, for toes to nibble. Once alone, then never. And once again from Laura Lush, her fine collection Carapace. Right now, at this moment, I walk into your room, the twitch of your hands around your bottle. This moment of succor I will not take. I could tell you all sorts of things, but how you are so very small and do not know the machinations that will make up your world. This tableau vivant, all yours. 5:30. I have been up since 5:30, sleep snatched by the panic of cries from the other room, my son untwisting from some dream. He wants milk, warmth, the clench of my arms around him. His head lolls against my shoulder as I carry him to my bed. One day he will hate me, just because I made him the way of all boys, tough and splendor in his grit for life. He will also love me, but a little less than now. Now is survival the want of my protection. But for now he is my whole garden. This sun not to grow broken. Ah yes, in a world of broken suns we wander, do we not? George Bowering from Blondes on Bikes. At final exams, the young women have dirty hair. They wear jeans and sweatshirts. They are tired and they mean business. This is when they are most beautiful. Worn out books piled in front of them, hands inky, not a trace of lipstick. I always sit somewhere in the room, able to read for once. An essay I should have read months ago. My hair clean and relaxed at last. First poem in the same book, Musing on Some Poets. Those poets, heads coming out of collars, advised us, showed us how to hold paper and look good. Did we sometime grow tired of them, those who lived for us, died for us, rotted underground for us, are still so we may move? Not friends, really, not teachers. Poets, whose names glittered when we were alone, whose books dropped like gleaming newborn cobs into our unsteady hands. Did we read them as if pulling shavings off our souls? Never stepped out of the Pacific combers with shine on morning face? Never twisted a body out of grip of cold giant ogre? Save with inspiration of our poets? And who knows what our means? What we are now besides older, a young man newly graduated from university, black gown still on him, said, I envy you and your friends. You got to make the last ones. There isn't anything to make now, or no one knows what there is. I said, it seems that way, but there is always something. And I showed him my teeth through yellow beer. Let us see if we can continue. David McFadden, his new book, What's the Score? A couple of Guardian Angel poems from same. The Vine Comedy. When your body dies and your spirit is finally free after all those years of imprisonment and solitary confinement, you find yourself confronted by a trio of guardian angels. Friendly guys, so they say, they being the neo-theosophists and so on. And these angels invite you to watch a slow motion replay of your life. And then they help you, if you need help, to discover where you went wrong and where you went right, where you learned the lessons you were intended to learn, and where you just plain failed. And they help you plan the perfect next life for you, one that will not punish you for your sins exactly, but will give you, how to put this now, a greater opportunity to learn the lessons you failed to learn this time. For instance, you might become a sea slug. So far in this life, in spite of numerous opportunities, I don't seem to have learned much about love, and I'm seldom seen at the food bank helping the poor and the lost get fed. Somehow it's just not in me, but I'm not a cruel person overly, ordinarily. Now I'm thinking there's a possibility I might be in trouble for not having taken the time to appreciate the work of Cézanne. Also, I've been overly fond of randomness. And then I've never been able to get past the first part of the Divine Comedy. A fact that could cause me deep regrets in another world. I sincerely hope is better. Hyacinths and primroses. Life is but a bridge of dreams, and yet we're always making a huge fuss of it, and we often leave a terrible mess. I know why. It's because it's more fun than lying in bed all day, meditating on meaninglessness. 3 guardian angels came to me and invited me to sit and watch a slow motion video of my life. Starting with the moonlit night my mother conceived me, and ending with my sweet, inconceivable little death, I guess. I told them this was truly premature. They said it was cool to be dead, and they were here to help me assess how and why and when I'd made mistakes while living my long and lovely life. They were nice. In fact, too nice, I thought. So I told them about my dear old Pop. The news of my death would break his heart. They closed their eyes and let me slip back into my body and through my lip. There was all this ebbing ecstasy, and you were smiling up at me. Indeed, let us not worry too much about our incarnation, shall we? Let us instead go to the delightfully slight poems of Robert Herrick, one of the Cavalier poets, born in 1591 and something of a favorite of Charles I. Delight in disorder. A sweet disorder in the dress kindles in clothes a wantonness, a lawn about the shoulders thrown into a fine distraction, an erring lace which here and there enthralls the crimson stomacher, a cuff neglectful, and thereby ribbons to flow confusedly, a winning wave, deserving note in the tempestuous petticoat, a careless shoestring in whose tie I see a wild civility, do more bewitch me than when art is too precise in every part. Well, thank you, Robert Herrick, for a little glimpse from centuries before. I wonder what he would write like now. Perhaps he'd like James Tate, the great American storyteller poet, of whom we have touched on before, glanced at, lived in. This is from his collection, The Ghost Soldiers, not The Ghost Shoulders. Although that would be just as good, really, wouldn't it? 2008, so quite recent. Spiderwebs. The man sitting next to me on the airplane pulled out the tray in front of him and set up his laptop computer as the stewardess gave permission to use electronic devices. He played the keyboard like a piano virtuoso, but nothing but annoying clicks came out of it. I read the airline magazine as if it were a suspense novel, although I glanced at his screen, hoping to decipher something. He was too fast for the likes of me. Columns of figures appeared, mutated and disappeared. I was lonely and longed for some good old-fashioned human contact, but he wasn't having any of that raggedy-ass stuff. I couldn't even tell what he was trafficking in. When our snack came, he ignored it. Admittedly, it wasn't much, but still, I devoured it and stared at his hungrily. He gave me a brief glance of irritation, stuck it in his pocket, then went back to work. Fascinating, I said. What? He said. I find your work fascinating. Of course, you've made several mistakes that will come back to haunt you, I said. He stared at me as if noticing me for the first time. What are you talking about? He said. Nothing. It's none of my business, I said, staring into my magazine. Who are you? Are you a spy? He said. My name is Jeremy Bendix, and I'm a human being, I said. A human being, he said. Well, goody for you. I played golf on Maui yesterday. What does that make me? A piece of space debris? Now, I have work to do. no doubt riddled with grave mistakes, but still I'm going to do it, if you'll excuse me. And then with that, he turned his attention to the screen and worked more furiously than ever. I nodded off for a while, and when I awoke, I looked at him and said, "Whoops." He said, "What?" And I repeated, "Whoops." He said, "What are you talking about now?" "Nothing, nothing. It's just that you failed to take into account the effect of the recession in the Southeast Asian market and the ripple it's had throughout Europe, not to mention elsewhere. Of course, I'm completely out of my league here, and I ought to shut up," I said, and closed my eyes again. I work hard, but it's not like I'm building a wall of stones that you can't see and feel. I'm in the dark, crawling around on my hands and knees. All I can feel are spider webs across my face and the dust beneath my hands. I hear nothing but the chatter of mice and rats. "Can't you understand that?" he said. "What?" I said. "Are you talking to me?" "No," he said, and closed up his laptop as we waited for the plane to land. "Listen, I was just kidding when I said that," I said. "Said what?" he said. "About being a human being," I said. "Oh, yes, that, of course." "I took it in the spirit of jest," he said. I followed him through the terminal and we stood in line for taxis. "Where are you going?" he asked after a while. "I'm going to see a very poor blind man who rarely eats or drinks and who talks in riddles. Well, not riddles really, but has a very special kind of nonsense." "He probably knows more than you and me together about the Asian market," I said. "Sounds like my boss on a good day," he said. "It is," I said. "Good, we can share a taxi," he said. And let us turn to Coburg's own Stuart Ross for a final comment. From his book, I Cut My Finger. I've cut mine too a few times. Poem. He ran around in tight circles. He looked for a way out. If there was no way out, how did he get in? Both in and out were inside him. How did they get there? He stopped running. He thought hard. He stopped thinking. He ran around in tight circles. Well, that was a fine selection. I only made one or two mistakes. I think we can live with that. And given the course of this summer and the actions of our current administration, I think we can live with a lot of things. It's how we get by, living with a lot of things that we aren't too keen on. And then, of course, there are many things that we are keen on. Thus human relations, thus poetry. Hooray for poetry, that's what I say. The arts of elegant language. Bye-bye.